Welcome to the Introduction to Quality Improvement training series from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, Office of Clinical Quality Management. My name is Mary Beth Cox. I'm a Quality Improvement Coordinator, and I will be your facilitator for this series. This is part 3. We are going to take a closer look at Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles. We will be reviewing the components of each step in the PDSA cycle. We will be reviewing how to use a PDSA worksheet. We will discuss the scale of testing and using a PDSA ramp or scaling up of testing. This is the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. We're going to go through each step in the cycle and explain what exactly you need to do. Okay, we're starting with plan. This is when you plan a test of your change. Remember, the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle comes after answering the 3 questions in the model for improvement. So you're going to document the steps that you're going to do. What is your timeline for testing your change? Who will be involved? When and how will the change happen? What resources will you need? What do you think will happen when you make the change? This is a really important question as it is your prediction or your hypothesis. What data are you going to collect? This is basically your planning to study your change. How will you collect it? Who is responsible? When will it happen? These are all questions you need to ask when you're developing your plan. Some people talk about the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle as plan, 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 do, study, act, because the planning part really does take the most work. Next comes the do phase. This is where you implement your plan. You want to carry out the plan on a small scale to begin with and document your steps and observations. Make sure to include any problems or unexpected findings or events. This is also when you collect the data you identified as necessary for your plan in order to do the next step, which is to study. You want to describe what happened when you ran the test. In the study phase, you will study the change you made. You will analyze the data that you collected during the do phase. Document how the measured results compare to your predictions. This is why that prediction or hypothesis was so important. What did you learn? Did the change result in the expected outcome? Were there any surprises, successes, failures, or unintended consequences? Think about what you would do different in another test. And now we arrive at the act stage. This is where you decide what to do next. You can adapt, adopt, or abandon your process. If you adapt, this means you modify the changes and do another PDSA cycle. You can adopt the change. This basically means that it worked, and you could consider expanding the changes in your organization. You could abandon the change because it did not work and select a different change to test next. Remember to document and describe what modifications to the plan you will make for the next cycle from what you learned. This slide simply has all of the steps for each phase of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle and the questions and the things you want to make sure to document along the way. You could pause right here and copy and print this for your records. It is very important to use a PDSA worksheet as you start along your journey. There are many benefits of doing this. It helps you track what stage you are at and helps make sure you don't skip a step in the process. It helps keep all your work documented in one place, and hopefully you have a team and some team members and partners It serves as a communication tool for your team. And there are other benefits I'm sure you will also identify along the way. There are many PDSA worksheets out and available in the public domain that you can find and utilize. There are a few examples on the left-hand side of this slide. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services has also developed a job aid for doing quality improvement, which includes a PDSA worksheet. The link to this worksheet and how to access it online will be available in the notes for this video. The Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services also has a quality management system. There's a quality improvement committee, and there are 11 quality improvement subcommittees. In this formal structure, these committees have to propose at least one quality improvement initiative every year, and in that they use the Model for Improvement and Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles. For this purpose, DBHCS has developed and adopted a Quality Improvement Initiative Toolkit, which includes answering the 3 questions and a PDSA worksheet. There's much more detail to this toolkit, including having a background statement and a lot more information to fill out. But at the heart of it, it is answering the 3 questions and the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. Let's talk about the scale of testing for a second. This table talks about, depending on your level of commitment, your belief in change, the cost of failure, how big or how small you should do your test. So let's look at this a little more closely. For example, if there is not a lot of commitment to the change that is being made, say that leadership is a little skeptical that the change will work, and the belief in change might be low and the cost of failure high, you would probably want to do a very small scale test. An example of this might be like a change to a data system, a significant change. So maybe you would want to figure out how to test it on a very small scale. However, on the other end of the scale, if the commitment is very high, and if the belief in change is very high and the cost of failure very small, perhaps you should go straight away to full implementation. So in this case, the team may not feel like they need to do a PDSA cycle. So this is like at that end of the scale is full implementation. So probably by the time you got there, you will have done several PDSA cycles. You will usually land somewhere in the middle here, where there's low belief in change, small cost of failure, or high belief in change, but large cost of failure, and then moderate commitment to the change. So folks might be a little like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but it's worth testing it out. So in those cases, you would still do a very small scale test to begin with. And as the commitment grows, you could grow your test to a larger and larger scale. So when you're using the PDSA cycles, you will likely land among testing on a small scale to begin with. Let's think through this for a minute. It's actually not as easy as it sounds. Your team is going to have to take time to think through how to do this. Can you test your change for one individual, one home, one day, one encounter, or one visit? Sometimes people feel like it's a little tedious to think through the details about how to do that, but that will pay off in the long run when you learn from that one test how to scale it up, what worked and what didn't. How will you study your one test of change? This is a PDSA ramp. Basically, this just means that as you repeat cycles and next steps, your hunches, theories, and ideas become changes that result in improvement after multiple tests. So after the first one, you might scale up, learn something else, scale up even more, until you're resulting in more widespread improvement. So after learning from each test, you will refine your change through several PDSA cycles, and you might implement it on a broader scale. For example, if you had tested it on one day, maybe you test it for 2 days. Maybe then you test it for a week. Or maybe if you had a pilot population, say a small group, then you would go to a larger group. After you successfully implemented your change or a packet of changes for a pilot population, you've tried it out, the team can spread the changes to other parts of the organization or in other organizations. Say, for example, you have a network of group homes or locations for your service. If you figured out how to improve wait times or scheduling in one location, after testing it out and learning what worked and didn't work, then you can spread that change to your other locations. That brings us almost to the end of this video. Let's do a quick knowledge check. We reviewed components of the PDSA cycle closely and discussed the importance of using a PDSA worksheet. We discussed the scale of testing and doing repeat PDSA cycles. Here are some resources that you can visit to learn more about the topics reviewed in this video. The American Society for Quality, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and the Embracing Quality in Public Health Guidebook all have samples of PDSA worksheets. And when it is available, the QI job aid that DBHDS has developed should be at the link on this slide. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you continue to the next video, which is examples of PDSA in action.